I'm Steve.
I'm Irene.
I'm Lisa.
My name is Tom.
I'm a graphic designer.
College freshman.
Stay-at-home mom with a full-time job.
Scholar on social policy and a barista.
And I'm just like you.
I'm an Obama supporter.
I support President Obama.
But the president needs your help.
Our president can't launch into another war without you. And remember, when we voted for him in 2008 and 2012, we promised to support him no matter what.
Together, we can do it.
That's why we here at the Americans for Whatever Barack Obama Wants, Did You Know He's Friends with Jay-Z, have launched a Kickstarter campaign to fund World War III.
And America is dead-ass broke, so our goal is to raise $1.6 trillion on behalf of the U.S. government.
That's where you come in.
Even a small donation would make all the difference.
World War III is a very important, very progressive war that Obama tells me is very important. So it must be.
When I first saw the president speak in 2008 in a YouTube clip posted to my Facebook page, I knew he was going to be right all the time. So I support World War III and IV and any moon war the president may want to start.
I mean, there is no way that he or the cabal of corporate interests, spy agencies, and shadow bankers that tell him what to do would ever mislead us.
It's time for Fully Threaded Radio.
It is Fully Threaded Radio, voice of the FCH Sourcing Network. This is the online, on-demand fastener talk radio show where we kickstart the industrial fastener industry on an episode-by-episode basis. So, if you really dig fasteners, you've come to the right podcast. Eric Dudas here, and I'm joined, as always, by everyone's favorite code slinger and fashion maven, Mr. Brian Musker. Doing all right, Brian?
I am, yeah, a little more code slinging than looking at fashion magazines at the moment. Up to my neck in it, actually.
As it should be. And we launched this episode of the podcast with a hilarious parody from the people at the Second City Network. And you can see the whole video on YouTube. It's about 3.5 minutes long, and just go out there and search Kickstart World War III and you'll see it. You can also check out the Fully Threaded Facebook page where we have it linked. Did you get a chance to check this out, Bri?
Yeah, I did actually. My knowledge of Kickstarter is a little bit different to this. This is really, really funny. Okay, just in case you don't know, Kickstarter normally is for people funding technical, iPhone development things or Android development things. They start up Kickstarter, and if they get enough money, then they can go ahead and do it.
Well, that's true, Bri, but, the progressive side really likes to borrow these terms and mold them to their purposes. And, we like to inject a certain amount of humor into the show, and Fully Threaded listeners know that quite well. We're not always successful at it, but we try. And, it's not always directed at the fastener industry, but if ever there was a time to mock our current rulers and those who sycophantically follow them, now's the time, and this is a great video for that.
That is, yeah. You send it to your links to your friends. They'll love it.
But now it's time to kickstart this, the 70th installment of Fully Threaded Radio, which we're publishing on September 12th, 2013. We'll get things started today with a conversation with Rick Perkaus of Fastener Specialty Manufacturing. He's based down in Florida, and he caught our eye with an incredibly small set screw, which he tweeted about recently. He's a great FCH member and listener to the show, and it was really excellent to talk to him about what he's doing with his business these days. Next, Mike McNulty joins us for the Fastener News Report, this time which includes the latest Fastener Distributor Index results with Holden Lewis of BB&T Capital Markets. What was the number for August? Well, they don't call them the dog days for nothing, Bray.
You're right. A dog.
A Fastener dog. We got news in that department too later on, folks. But our feature segment today is a conversation with Mr. Charlie Kerr of Ohio-based manufacturer Kerr Lakeside. As usual, Charlie's been thinking on a variety of broadly fastener-related subjects, and he doesn't hold back. I think you'll really enjoy this one, everybody. Plus, Apple announced its new iPhone offerings. Did they impress the street? What are Android users saying? More importantly, what was arch-rival Google's response to all this? Well, Brian and I are going to kick that around to close out today's predominantly fastener-related Fandango.
The title sponsor of Fully Threaded Radio is Stellfast. For service you deserve and people you trust, it's Stellfast. And joining us for this episode and a whole lot more as another title sponsor is Trinity Hardware Headquarters for parts done right. Also, Buckeye Fasteners, Fastenal, Volt Industrial Plastics, and Solution Industries, home of Solution Man. And I particularly would like to welcome our new sponsor because Dan and his team just in the last 2 days gave me a hand in sorting out a little better way the scrubber could deal with flange nuts, okay? So welcome to all of you and thanks.
That's right. Dan Zender and his team are really making great strides, and we're so thrilled that they've chosen to use the Fully Threaded platform to get the word out about all that. And, double bonus when you can get your sponsors to help you out with maybe little bugs you're having.
That's right. And it was a very obscure, and it was actually very important. So it was good.
That's great to hear. And we appreciate all of you joining us for the show today, everybody. The FTR community continues to grow, and it means a lot to us.
Right. Now, would you have thought that we'd have got to 70 episodes?
Well, 70 does come after 69, so if you would have asked me that last episode, I'd give you pretty good odds.
But what about after episode 2?
Yeah, it's been an interesting ride, that's for sure. So, once again, glad to have you all with us, folks, and we'll be right back to kick it all off right after this.
I thought you were going to say fast, and you can say hydrogen embrittlement.
Hey, that would have been actually pretty good. Good one, Bri.
When top quality and outstanding service are at the top of your list in fastener suppliers, turn to Stellfast. Since 1976, Stellfast has grown to become an industry-leading importer and manufacturer of the highest quality industrial fasteners, specialty items, and automotive parts. Our array of facilities across North America and in Asia, along with full quality control labs and ISO 9001-2008 certifications, ensure the highest quality parts, and at Stellfast, they're delivered with undisputed service excellence. We're family-run and dedicated to your success. Our customers have come to depend on the expertise of our staff and the quality of our products. We also offer a wide range of secondary services to meet some of the toughest requirements you might have. Contact Stellfast today through our website at www.stellfast.com and put us to work for you. Stellfast. Service you deserve, people you trust.
Looking for package fasteners of all kinds? How about specials or unique parts that no one seems to carry? At Trinity Hardware Headquarters, we believe in parts done right, and our new catalogue is available online at trinityhardwarehq.com, featuring over 30,000 different types of fasteners available in package quantities, product kits, and assortments, including hundreds of hard-to-find parts as well as the most popular inch and metric sizes. Trinity Hardware Headquarters has locations throughout the Midwest and South, and over 400,000 square feet of warehouse space with 18 million pounds of fasteners ready to fill your requirements. Our featured products include number 3 and number 7 head plough bolts, grade 5 and grade 8 carriage bolts, hook bolts, tap bolts, and nuts and washers of all kinds, plus much more. Visit our website at www.trinityhardwarehq.com or give Trinity Hardware Headquarters a call at 888-232-1010. Trinity Hardware Headquarters, for parts done right.
Buckeye Fasteners and the Ohio Nut and Bolt Company have been servicing the fastener community since 1905. An employee-owned company for 33 years, we take great pride in the quality of products we sell, offering outstanding customer service from our very knowledgeable sales team members. Our standard product lines include graded weld screws, resistance weld fasteners, leg levelers, tube inserts, clevis pins, and various other fasteners. We have complete custom manufacturing capabilities in low carbon, medium carbon, and stainless steel materials, and our quality systems are registered to ISO standards. We also have an entire team of sourcing specialists able to locate those hard-to-find items with typically smaller minimums and shorter lead times than that of our competition. We offer same-day shipments from one of our warehouses, strategically located throughout the United States and Canada, enabling us to fulfill all your fastener needs in a very timely manner. To find out more about Buckeye Fasteners, please call us at 800-437-1689 or visit us on the web at buckeyefasteners.com. Buckeye Fasteners, product support from development to implementation.
Hi, everyone. This is Russ Doran, president of PacWest Fastener Association, inviting you to join us for our fall conference in Vancouver, British Columbia, September 19th through the 22nd. This conference is open to all in the fastener industry. Come experience an incredible setting during a spectacular season. And see for yourself the buzz on fancy bacon, excellent donuts, maple syrup, and beaver tail pastries. We prepared a top-drawer business agenda focused on practical and applicable education relevant to fastener business owners and executives. And some very exciting, unique social events like our own PacWest curling competition in a very modified Olympic format that will favor those less adept with brooms and stones on an ice rink. And I'm pretty sure this may be the first for the Link Photo Conference coverage. You can even order a curling team t-shirt. All details and registration can be found at pacwest.org. So check your passport, grab some loonies, and join us in Canada. This conference will be a beauty.
I need quarter 20x2 zinc-plated socket head and cap screws ASAP. My customer has a line down and needs Saturday delivery. Help!
Solution Man Ken. I have over $1 million in zinc-plated sockets in stock, and I'll gladly drop ship directly to your customer on Saturdays. Visit the Solution Industries website for details at solutionind.com.
Is there anything you can't do, Solution Man?
When it comes to fasteners, nothing I can think of, ma'am. I'm not too good at bowling, though.
Hey, this is Tracy Lehman from Pacific Warehouse Sales, and you're listening to Fully Threaded Radio.
Brian and Eric back with you. Hey, Brian, about 2 weeks back, I had the pleasure of attending the Sonoyta 98th Annual Rodeo down in southern Arizona. It was a blast.
Okay.
And you're probably wondering why I brought this up.
Yeah, I was actually.
Well, they had a couple of announcers, and I tell you, those guys really spiced up the rodeo. It was just a lot of fun, a little slice of Americana, and one of the announcers, kind of a joker, he says, when you put your sweater in the washer the wrong way, the whole thing shrinks. But for some reason, when it rains, sheep don't shrink. Why is that? And you're the resident sheep herder around here. I was curious if you had any feedback on that or any input.
Right. We don't usually drop sheep into the hot washing machine. I think it's the heat that's the problem, okay? Actually, as a side note, when I was a kid on our farm in New Zealand, we used to have rodeos around there. They're actually quite common in New Zealand.
And well, you would have been proud because at this event there were a few representatives from down under, and it was just a great thing. Hopefully I can get down there maybe for the 100th.
Right, yeah.
Well, that's something you know a whole lot about is sheep and being down under and FCH, the FCH sourcing network. And we are the very people who bring that to you. The website for that is www.fastenersclearinghouse.com, and I hope you'll all get out there whenever the need comes up to find a hard-to-find part or a fill-in perhaps, or if you need some help moving some inventory or developing some new customers. That's another thing that we do. And again, that's the FCH sourcing network at www.fastenersclearinghouse.com.
Yeah, with an S. Okay.
That's right. And the S is for sheep.
Not always.
Hey, before we get too far into the show, I want to invite your input, everybody. We've had a couple of reports about problems with the streaming of the show, and not a whole lot of them, but a few, enough to make us a little bit concerned. What seems to be happening is when people are streaming the show off of the Fully Threaded website, we've only had reports of people using Internet Explorer, but the show seems to drop out after about an hour or so. And we're trying to really get our arms around this and understand it. So if you're having that problem, please get with us at the email address ftr@fullythreaded.com. Let us know as much information as you can, including that browser that you're using in the version, because we want you to enjoy the show and have no problems with it.
Yeah, of course, you might have just thought the show came to an end, but if it all seems to stop rather abruptly, then it might be that it stopped streaming, okay? Neither Eric nor I just stopped in the middle of a sentence speaking.
Well, very rarely. So once again, please send that info to ftr@fullythreaded.com. You can also get with us anytime on Twitter at the handle Fully Threaded. And while we're at it, we put follow-up links to the show, of which there will be many interesting ones, on our Facebook page. So make sure you get out there, check that out, get all that follow-up information.
Right. And, of course, the easiest way to listen to podcasts is really on your phone, okay? No matter which one you have, the instructions to do that and the links are on our Fully Threaded page.
That is true. And it's good to see the smartphone listenership increasing. I think that's kind of a trend of the times. And speaking of trends of the time, you recently sent me an article about one of our favorite subjects, which is 3D printing. And this is a really cool one. It's an article from the BBC News, bbc.co.uk. This was back on August 22nd, Bri. Headline was, MakerBot Digitizer Desktop 3D Scanner Goes on Sale. And this little device, which is retailing for about $1,400, is really cool. It's not the finished product of where 3D scanning is going by any means.
No. Yeah, it's not meant to be.
Right. It's for early adopters, hobbyists, and so forth. But the purpose is you've got now a desktop scanning capability. It's a laser-driven thing where you can put it on the desktop, put an object on it, and the output from the scanner is something you can put directly into a 3D printer, print out that object.
Right. So the aim is so that you can basically replicate something without having to design it from scratch.
Yeah, and you don't really have to be a wizard with CAD or anything like that, because it's taking the template right off of the object itself.
Right.
They point out that it won't be doing hamburgers anytime soon, Bri.
Though I have to say that I just read another article last night on BBC News, and it was an article about them printing out heart valves. First set of heart valves printed out on 3D printers in England, some university hospital in England.
Wow, very cool. Now, what kind of material would they use for that?
A very, very long-lasting good one, I hope.
I guess so. It makes a lot of sense. Let's hope it's heart-friendly and long-lasting.
Right.
Well, at the end of this article that I was talking about, there's a quote that kind of puts a little bit of a damper on this whole thing, but I guess it's good to have a reality check. An investment analyst company, Citron Research, says, quote, appearances have become completely unhinged from reality when it comes to the mania created in so-called 3D printing. So it has its naysayers as well, but I fully expect that this is a harbinger of things to come, good things.
So these people would define us in the mania section then?
Well, they're not alone, Bri.
No, yeah, I guess all right. Right. A number of people might have thought of that for a while.
Well, Bri, in lieu of a planned, well-executed segue, we'll awkwardly shift gears now. And
yeah, it would be a first.
Right. Something caught my eye a couple of weeks back out on the social media. Saw a picture of, I think it's the tiniest set screw I ever saw in my life. It was up against a penny, and that part was patched by Fastener Specialties. They're down in Palm Beach, Florida, and Rick Perkaus is the proprietor down there. He joins us now. Hey, Rick.
How are you doing?
It's really good to talk to you, mate.
Absolutely. Yeah, I'd love to hear some more about that set screw, Rick. I mean, that thing just blew my mind when I saw it. But just to let everybody know, you've been a solid FCH member for some time now, and we're just thrilled to be able to get you on the show finally.
I'm thrilled to be here. I really appreciate the invitation.
What's the backstory with that set screw? And by the way, we'll favorite it on our Facebook page, and I know you've put it back up on Twitter and Facebook so folks can check out what we're talking about here.
I will definitely do that as soon as we get off this interview. This is certainly the smallest set screw, and you did mention the word patch. It's actually a nylon point. It's actually got a nylon point in the tip of that set screw, and it is by far the smallest nylon point we have ever put on any set screw. It's an item that perhaps 3 years ago or longer I would have no quoted it. So I was just tickled pink when my foreman tackled this job and did a wonderful job on it, and it photographed very well with my professional photography skills.
Like using your iPhone.
Using my phone for sure.
So, but just to give folks an idea about how small we're talking about, how small was it, or what was the size?
That was a 356 by 316 set screw in stainless, and the nylon tip, of course, was something smaller than that. I would have to look that up. But that was some very tiny, almost invisible work.
Do you know what the application for that part was, Rick?
I don't often know what the applications are, and that falls true for this as well. I really don't know where it's been used, but typically the nylon tips are used up against a shaft or some other object that they do not want to mar in any way.
Right. Yeah.
Now, Fastener Specialties, you guys specialize in small quantity special hex socket items, so this was a little bit of a departure for you. Are you getting more into the secondary services in that?
Believe it or not, we've always been involved in the secondaries. It's for decades now. We will often buy something from, say, that's Easy Sockets, and we'll take that standard socket item and we'll modify it, and we'll make something special out of it. And that's been actually a generous portion of our total income for all these years. But what really makes the phones ring is the ability to make these parts from bar. And of course, that includes just about every kind of metal you can think of, or anything on your list. We can probably make it from that metal. Nylon tips is something we've been doing for a long time, but certainly not in a number 3 diameter set screw.
Right. Now, so are you following on with the evangelizing that Eric's been doing about these additive manufacturing? In other words, the possibility that you could use a fairly upmarket 3D printer to do some of these things instead of machining them out of bar?
Yeah, I was thinking the same thing, given that you're dealing with small quantities frequently.
Yeah, that aspect of 3D printing does perhaps give me a little moment of pause, because I think some of the prototypes perhaps could be done on a 3D printer rather than them calling me. But I really think that I still have a tremendous advantage in that I still want to help. I've still got that human touch, and people are still going to want to call me, I think, for the small run sockets that they need, and their customers need them too. And I think there are some disadvantages to 3D printing that perhaps I need to read up on those and become a little stronger there.
Well, no, the fact is that you can be using 3D printers to produce these things for people.
Yeah, that's something. We would need to add a little more crew and a little bit more equipment, but absolutely, we may be able to replace a small quantity, a small portion of our total industry with that, our business with that.
Right, because not everyone knows how to use one of these things, or how to program it, or how to set everything up. But the fact is, it's still possible to produce one-offs relatively quickly. Okay.
Correct. Yeah, unfortunately for me, most of my quantities are not only one, but I just do what my customers need me to do.
Right. Do you have such thing as a regular or normal, not regular, but normal customer? What's the profile?
We do limit ourselves to distributors of fasteners, And I know from speaking to my distributor my distributor customers that they love the fact that they don't have to worry about me competing with them directly to their end users. I've had end users come to me, especially since I joined FCH, because they see some fantastic inventory out there that I've listed with you guys. And they come to me, and very often they ask me for my parts, and I tell them, I'm sorry, I won't sell it direct, but please go to XYZ company because they are my distributor and they're in your area, and I'd appreciate it if you do business with them and, mention me when you call them.
Right. And that's exactly how it's meant to work. If you are someone who does not deal with the end users, public, should I say.
So, Rick, you're down in the West Palm Beach, Florida market. What are you seeing activity-wise down there these days?
Well, our market is the entire North American continent. We have certainly seen a drop, say, in the last year in the industrial sector of our business. I think I've heard that the commercial, the construction side of our industry is doing quite well. But in the industrial side, my customers have been complaining, and therefore I'm passing along the complaints.
Well, it's definitely a mixed bag out there these days. We're hearing a little bit on both sides of that. What do you think of the Fastener Distributor Index? I know you've been participating and following that a little bit. Does it seem to be somewhat, according to your experience, what we're doing?
I think I'm on the lower end of that scale. My customers have been complaining enough where I really think that the economy for us doesn't appear to be as good as the overall picture. I am confident that it's going to come back. In fact, it has come back to some extent in the last 2-3 months. But I really haven't seen the historical numbers that we saw several years ago.
Right, but we should point out that the latest FDI number of 50.8 is hardly a good market condition, okay? That's just slightly above water.
Yeah, that's true. That's been hovering around 50 for most of the year, I believe.
Correct. So the sentiment isn't great just yet. Hopefully it will get better.
Well, we'll hear Mike McNulty and Holden Lewis discussing that number coming up in just a little bit. Rick, I wanted to ask you, dovetailing on the issue of 3D printing, obviously that represents a whole new area of knowledge for a lot of fastener companies, and some are probably going to take the plunge, some won't. Is there any particular aspect of your business that you're working on significantly right now that you're trying to vision your company and grow it?
Yeah, actually, I have to kind of go back into a little tiny bit of history here. And my business has been around for 40 years, and it started with my parents. I was still in school when I graduated from college. I did start full time here at Fastener Specialties, and my parents still ran the show. And once they became ill and eventually passed away, I found myself somewhat of a solitary business owner. I felt alone, actually. And so with several years worth of working at it, I finally found a group called Vistage who really helped they helped me keep my eye on the ball. And they helped me pull me back and allow me to look at the entire business, kind of an aerial view, so to speak, and look at all aspects of the business. And they really get me out of the everyday minutia. And I think that's been helping me a lot.
So you would recommend this? I mean, I'm sure there's actually a lot, this industry is mainly made up of small family companies. And so probably a lot of people are in a similar boat to you, actually.
I'm sure. Yeah. I mean, these small business groups, the owners get together and they help each other push their businesses forward. And of course, Vistage's view is that each of us individually come with our own faults and our own characteristics. And, good and bad, we bring these characteristics to our businesses, and we need to be told when we're wrong, and we need to be told when we're right. And it just feels good to have some confirmation that we're doing certain things right, and there are certain things that need to be worked on. And for me, I know I'm pushing 50 years old here, and for some reason, I'm focused on succession of the business. I really want this legacy to live on, and I certainly have no plans of leaving this earth anytime soon. But if that were to happen, I want things to end in a positive way for this company. and actually continue in a positive way for this company. So
right.
I need to give a lot of thought to that and make sure that it can happen.
Right, and it isn't by pure accident. You actually have to plan really carefully for how this is all going to run if you aren't there for a week or a month or a year.
Oh, heck yeah. I'd be surprised if there weren't just a lot of companies, if you looked under the veneer, that really haven't got themselves set up quite right. So that sounds like a smart thing you're doing there, Rick, by looking into that.
Right.
Absolutely. Yep. This group knows me well and points out the action steps that I need to take, and then I get right back into my everyday workload, and there's a lot more satisfaction to working now, and I really needed that.
Now let me ask you this. I'm inferring that this is not a predominantly fastener-related group, and have you ever given thought to participating in one of the associations that also try to help business owners and look at their business in a different way, but it's a little bit with more of a fastener emphasis?
Yeah, I do belong to the Southeastern Fastener Association. I've only participated in one of their meetings, and I'm embarrassed to admit how many decades ago that was. But I did intend to go earlier this year, and the things just didn't work out, so I did not make it. But I plan to go to the next one, and I will definitely be doing that more. That's in my part of my plan, is to make sure that I broaden my horizons and get out there and speak to these other fastener people much more often than simply on the phone.
Right, because a lot of this business, you know much better than I do, is FaceTime stuff, okay?
FaceTime is something that I sorely lack.
Get out to the NFDA website as well. You might want to hit their meeting coming up in Hawaii too, Rick. Sounds like a pretty good time.
Holy. NFDA, I will have to look further into that. I know that they've got some of the same goals, but yeah, absolutely.
Don't miss it. Well, folks who want to get with you can get out to your website, and that is fastenerspecialties.com. Real nice looking site you got there, Rick. And
yeah, it is.
Sure do appreciate you joining us on the show today.
I really appreciate your time, and we can all, as Americans, or at least living in America, we can all know that we're doing the right things, and just keep on pushing. We live in a beautiful country that can do great things for us.
That is true.
Amen to that.
Yep.
Rick Perkaus, good to have you, and we'll be right back with more Fully Threaded Radio.
Online Fastener Talk Radio. Hey, at least it kills time on long road trips. Fully Threaded Radio.
Looking for package fasteners of all kinds? How about specials or unique parts that no one seems to carry? At Trinity Hardware Headquarters, we believe in parts done right, and our new catalogue is available online at trinityhardwarehq.com, featuring over 30,000 different types of fasteners available in package quantities, product kits, and assortments, including hundreds of hard-to-find parts as well as the most popular inch and metric sizes. Trinity Hardware Headquarters has locations throughout the Midwest and South, and over 400,000 square feet of warehouse space with 18 million pounds of fasteners ready to fill your requirements. Our featured products include number 3 and number 7 head plow bolts, grade 5 and grade 8 carriage bolts, hook bolts, tap bolts, and nuts and washers of all kinds, plus much more. Visit our website at www.trinityhardwarehq.com or give Trinity Hardware Headquarters a call at 888-232-1010. Trinity Hardware Headquarters, for parts done right. Hi everyone, it's Brian Musker. If you're listening to Fully Threaded, then you're no doubt aware of the FCH sourcing network found at fastenersclearinghouse.com. You've probably also heard about our legendary scrubber software that makes listing your inventory on FCH a snap. But have you heard about the new FCH SmartLink interface? With SmartLink, users of Business Edge, InSequel, and Distribution One have a new weapon in the war against excess inventory, because each of these platforms now links directly to the FCH scrubber system through an automated interface. The best part is that this new tool is available at no additional charge to FCH members who use Business Edge, InSequel, or Distribution One. With SmartLink, you can keep your inventory listings up to date with the click of a button, so it's a win-win for all FCH users. The new FCH FastLink interface is really big news, and we'll be thrilled to have your company using it. Business Edge, InSQL, and Distribution One users should contact their software provider for details, or just call me, Brian Musker. You can reach me through the FCH website at www.fastenersclearinghouse.com. That's fasteners with an S, and the S is for scrubber.
When top quality and outstanding service are at the top of your list in fastener suppliers, turn to Stellfast. Since 1976, Stellfast has grown to become an industry-leading importer and manufacturer of the highest quality industrial fasteners, specialty items, and automotive parts. Our array of facilities across North America and in Asia, along with full quality control labs and ISO 9001-2008 certifications, ensure the highest quality parts, and at Stellfast, they're delivered with undisputed service excellence. We're family-run and dedicated to your success. Our customers have come to depend on the expertise of our staff and the quality of our products. We also offer a wide range of secondary services to meet some of the toughest requirements you might have. Contact Stellfast today through our website at www.stellfast.com and put us to work for you. Stellfast. Service you deserve, people you trust.
In this economy, I need to cut cost and freight, or I'll lose my customer.
Solution Man, Ken. The more you order, the more you'll save. With free freight on orders over $1,000. See the Solution Industries website for details at solutionIND.com.
Solution Man, you're my fastener hero.
Just doing my job, ma'am.
Hi, this is Rich Pease with RK Precision Products in Green Bay, Wisconsin. You're listening to Fully Threaded Radio. Go Packers!
You know, Bri, during that conversation with Rick Perkaus, he made an interesting comment that I always like to hear, and that's when distributors are using FCH to support the distributors of their products. He was talking about people calling him and they wanted him to go direct, but instead he points them over to distributors where they can get his products, and that is just a great thing to hear from FCH members.
Right. You know, we'd addressed that actually when we started FCH. And one of the options that you can set when you set yourself up with FCH is to say that whether or not you sell to end users or distributors only, or anyone. And it's probably the most common question I get asked at the shows in Las Vegas, actually. People concerned that since they sell only to other distributors, how can they really list their products? And the truth is this is the world of Google, and as widely as possible is the real answer, as long as you put a note saying that your product is for sale to distributors only. Okay?
Right. And obviously a lot of people ignore it, and guys like Rick do the right thing and they support their distributors and their network, and that's great. I usually wind up telling people at the shows when the question comes up, it's really a mosh pit. You'd better talk to Brian about it. Oh. You know, there was another comment that Rick made that I want to make note of, and that is, Nancy Rich, if you're out there listening, you're the executive director of SEFA, the Southeastern Fastener Association. Sounds like Rick needs a recruitment call. Get him back in the fold.
That's exactly what I thought too.
Now, the MWFA has an event coming up November 7th, happening at the Rosewood Restaurant in Rosemont, Illinois, and that is their annual Scholarship Awards Dinner. And we have been honored this year, Brian, with a scholarship in the name of Fully Threaded Radio, and we'd like to thank the board for such an honor, and you can bet we'll be there.
Right. Actually, it's a good dinner, that one. They always get some really good speaker. It's a hint to Rich again, okay?
That's right, Rich Cavoto of McNulty.
Right.
Pipeline to the stars.
Yeah, your pathway.
Hey, we've got the Fastener News Report coming up momentarily. There's a little bit of breaking news, however, that I saw just before we recorded and just after we recorded with Mike McNulty, and that is Story on globalfastenernews.com. Headline, Southwest Fastener acquires Albuquerque's The Bolt Company.
Oh, okay.
Story begins, Arizona's Southwest Fastener has agreed to acquire the Bolt Company of New Mexico. The Bolt Company, founded in 2009 by John Barnhill and Mike Grajdine, if I pronounced that correctly. Southwest President Ken Lubbering cited the Bolt Company employees are key to the acquisition. And it's a good story. Check that out, and we're going to have some more coverage on that for you on episode 71. Talked to John Barnhill just a minute ago, and he's real happy about the whole deal.
Yeah, I think you've been talking to John Barnhill for a fair while, actually, haven't you?
Yeah, well, they started off in the New Mexico market and worked real hard, and I think they developed a sound enough footprint down there that they attracted the attention of Southwest, and of course you see those guys out there all over the place. And, hey, good luck to them. We'll keep our eye on it. I noticed also that Finn did a story on Tinnerman's efforts in the area of 3D. And they mentioned a topic that we didn't really cover in our recent interview with them, and that had to do with the whole intellectual property issue associated with 3D. You know, you put a part out there, and immediately the design is available to the universe.
Right, I saw that, and I read the comments about that. It was actually quite interesting with the way they dealt with that. They said you really have to keep your designs very secret for as long as possible. Now, that's particularly the case with these, 3D scanners that you just talked about earlier. I mean...
Oh, absolutely, man. I mean, it's a brave new world.
Yeah.
And for a whole other kind of fastener industry news, just saw a tweet fly by this morning from our friend Tracy Lumia. She, of course, of Link Magazine, and she announced that the latest show issue of Link Magazine is just about to hit the street, and we always look forward to seeing that every quarter.
Right, yeah.
Hey, I'd like to thank our sponsors on Fully Threaded Radio. Today's edition of the Fastener News Report is sponsored by Volt Industrial Plastics as well as Fastener Technology International Magazine, another fine source of information for our industry. And, of course, the title sponsors of Fully Threaded Radio are Stelfast and Trinity Hardware Headquarters. We're also sponsored by Buckeye Fasteners, Fastenal, and Solution Industries. And as always, we appreciate the support from our listeners, so thanks, everybody, for tuning in.
Right.
Holden Lewis is joining Mike McNulty on this edition as they focus on the August Fastener Distributor Index results.
I can't wait to hear what Holden thinks about that.
Here's Mike McNulty.
Thanks, Eric and Brian. This is Mike McNulty from Fastener Technology International Magazine, bringing you the Fastener News Report, which is sponsored today by Volt Industrial Plastics, makers of the world's finest plastic fasteners. The National Football League is back in action, and our local team, the much-loved and much-hated Cleveland Browns, has tied a record for consecutive losses in season openers. Their new coach, the team's 7th coach in 14 years, and some of their star players said not to worry, it's just one game. But I say let's tell the truth. It's 9 season opener losses in a row and 14 out of the last 15. This team is not good, at least not yet. Now, fortunately for me, in addition to football, we have lots of fasteners to focus on here in Northeast Ohio, which leads me to today's edition of the Fastener News Report. In today's top story, we're going to get the August 2013 results of FDI, also known as the Fastener Distributor Index. Also in today's report, we have newsmaker headlines from the Cold Heading Company, Fastenal, MetMax Innovations, National Machinery, Vossloh, the NFDA, and women in the fastener industry. We also have a back page report on political oaths of office. We will get to all of that and the Fastener Distributor Index results for August right after this.
Looking for package fasteners of all kinds? How about specials or unique parts that no one seems to carry? At Trinity Hardware Headquarters, we believe in parts done right, and our new catalogue is available online at trinityhardwarehq.com, featuring over 30,000 different types of fasteners available in package quantities, product kits, and assortments, including hundreds of hard-to-find parts as well as the most popular inch and metric sizes. Trinity Hardware Headquarters has locations throughout the Midwest and South. and over 400,000 square feet of warehouse space with 18 million pounds of fasteners ready to fill your requirements. Our featured products include number 3 and number 7 head plough bolts, grade 5 and grade 8 carriage bolts, hook bolts, tap bolts, and nuts and washers of all kinds, plus much more. Visit our website at www.trinityhardwarehq.com or give Trinity Hardware Headquarters a call at 888-232-1010. Trinity Hardware Headquarters, for parts done right.
Volt Industrial Plastics is the source for all your high-quality plastic fastener needs, and customer service is their #1 priority. With almost 1 million fasteners in stock and same-day shipping on stock items, Volt Industrial Plastics carries inventory so you don't have to. Volt manufactures everything in-house from over 125 different materials, and they're proud to say 100% of their products are American-made. And of course, custom tooling and in-house bagging is available. Contact Volt online at www.voltplastics.com. Volt Industrial Plastics, makers of the world's finest plastic fasteners.
Mike McNulty.
In August, the FDI popped back up to 50.8 versus its 49.7 result in July. Fastener Distributor Index data is collected and analyzed by BB&T Capital Markets and the FCH Sourcing Network, and it seeks to identify demand, pricing, and outlook trends within the American fastener distribution industry. To get details on these Dog Day results for August, we talked to Holden Lewis of BB&T Capital Markets. Hi, Holden. Thanks for joining us on the Fastener News Report.
Hi, Mike. Glad to do it as always. I think you're right about the dog days, particularly in the data.
Yeah, we've got a heat wave going across the country right now, and sluggish behavior, and it looks like that's spilled over into the Fastener Distributor Index. What can you tell us about August?
I think at this point you would have to characterize the movement in the FDI. As you noted, it went back up to 50.8 in August, which is up from 49.7 in July. But at this point, I think we've just got to characterize it as noise. If you look at the last 7 months, the FDI has really ranged between, call it 49 and 52, which is a pretty tight range, oscillating up and down, around 50, which is sort of the mark between expansion and contraction. The average number is about 51 over the last 7 months. And so, there's just not a lot of movement taking place within this index. It's continuing to grow, but at a very slow pace. And I think that probably characterizes the environment that a lot of your listeners are probably seeing as well. Certainly, I know a lot of the companies that I deal with are continuing to see relatively sluggish results, and I think that's what's reflected in this FDI. That even goes down to the various components. As people who follow this know, we look at 4 different components. Sales are still doing all right, but it seems to be kind of hand to mouth more than anything else because customer inventories still seem to be very low. Perhaps the only maybe positive sign this month is that supplier deliveries perhaps slowed down a bit, but again, that's relative to July. It's actually a little bit faster than it was in June. So, I would say that it's still a sluggish environment. People kind of living hand to mouth and keeping inventories lean, and I don't think that people are terribly concerned with what the future holds in terms of worries about any sort of decline. But it's pretty clear that they're not building in anticipation of a reacceleration in demand at this point either.
Right. It does seem like we've been using that word sluggish growth for several episodes now, and it'd be nice to get that switched over to a different adjective.
We could refer to a thesaurus and figure out some other way to describe this.
Yeah. Now, I know in your analysis and your reports, you also take a look at the more national or more broad index, the PMI, and I think you've noted here for the last 2 months that's really taking off. What do you read into that as compared to the sluggishness of the FDI?
Well, and this is sort of a nice segue perhaps into a little bit more of an optimistic or hopeful outlook, because as sluggish as the FDI continues to be, you're absolutely right that PMI has been much stronger. You look at the July reading at 55.4, look at the August reading at 55.7. I mean, those are very strong readings, especially considering that you are in the fifth year of a cyclical expansion. And so those are significantly improved on the readings that came really the 6-7 months before. And so that's a very hopeful sign. And anybody who's looking at the PMI, remember the PMI is a leading index. It tends to lead industrial production by 3 to 5 months. And so the PMI is improved. It's not telling us that you should be seeing better results right now. It's telling us that by the time we get into Q4, you should be beginning to sort of see signs that demand is getting a little bit better. And so perhaps that's something to look forward to. And frankly, it's not just the PMI. I would tell you that tracking the companies that I track, there are perhaps some other early, very early sort of signs that maybe confidence is building up a little bit. I cover a company called Kennametal. Kennametal put out their July results recently. They weren't good results, but if you dig into the details, what you find is that the core metalworking side of the business is seeing decelerating rates of contraction. So I think that would certainly be perceived as a good thing. A company called Rockwell Automation, they recently began to reinvest in growth drivers, which they said they weren't going to do until they felt a little bit better about what the outlook looks like. And again, even looking at our own FDI, the 6-month outlook, there still are twice as many people who expect demand to be higher 6 months from now than expect it to be lower. So, I think the inventory cuts have run their course. All this is very, very early. It may amount to nothing, but it does seem to me like you're starting to see increasing bits of evidence that maybe demand is starting to get better. And of course, we would like a faster gratification, but it's also important to remember, this stuff doesn't turn like a light switch. You don't exit July and enter August and somebody flicks a switch and things are great again. It's a process. And I would bring us back to the second half of 2012, when at that point people were pretty negative on where things were going to be going. The first half of 2013, that negativity went away, but there was certainly no optimism. It's certainly possible that what we're beginning to see is inventory reductions having run their course, comparisons getting easier, confidence improving a little bit, and the first half of 14, maybe it's better. So I really bring that up just to emphasize again, it's a process, it's not a light switch. It's still very early. Ultimately, we could be back here 2 months from now saying, yeah, kind of disappointing because we're still stuck in the mud. But I at least thought I would highlight a few things that we're seeing and hearing anecdotally, which suggests that maybe we're beginning to see a little bit of perkiness bubbling up under the surface, that maybe we get lucky and it builds up a little momentum.
Now, you mentioned that the Purchasing Managers Index, the PMI, is a leading indicator.
Ian.
Do you have enough data or information to say that the FDI is maybe a lagging indicator, or?
I think it's too early to say exactly what the relationship between the FDI and industrial production is going to look like. Again, I think that it's been very positive in that the FDI and what is actually happening on the ground seem to be tracking very closely, and I think that that's a positive. Now, whether it is a leader or not has yet to be seen. I'll tell you that my suspicion is that it is not. And the reason is the difference between the Purchasing Managers Index and our own index, the FDI, is precisely that the PMI is asking purchasing managers. Purchasing managers are obviously purchasing for forward demand, and therefore they're a bit more forward-looking, whereas I think the folks that we're talking to for the FDI tend to be a little bit more in the moment. And so, my feeling is that the FDI is going to reflect what is happening currently, and that the PMI should be viewed as a bit of a potentially leading indicator to the FDI. With more data, we'll be able to refine that, but that's my suspicion. But on the subject of leading indicators, this month we did sort of ask we asked the respondents about a specific leading indicator that we like, and that is a lot of these fastener companies and distributors, they have customers that are MRO oriented and customers that are OEM oriented. And, we have always sort of wondered about the relationship between OE and MRO, and we sort of put the question to the respondents. And, what came back was, I think, very few people think that MRO tends to lead OEM, but there were a good number of people that feel that OEM demand tends to lead the MRO demand. And the unfortunate piece is right now no one is really seeing much in the way of a change in the relative performance of OEM versus MRO. And I would say, having gone through Fastenal's monthly results recently, that's the same. But I think that there were a lot of respondents that do, in fact, track that OEM business relative to the MRO business to get a sense of where trends are going. Right now it's not signaling anything positive, not signaling anything negative, but for those that have a healthy blend of the two, there's a fair number of people that swear that could be a decent leading indicator for the fastener side of the business, is tracking that OE business versus the MRO business.
That's interesting. Now, one other question I have on the PMI. You're talking about the purchasing manager, and they're buying things obviously, and if they're seeing price increases in what they buy, would that show up in the PMI going up?
There is a pricing component through the PMI. I have to admit, I'm not exactly sure where that came in the last month. I will say that in recent months, it's been relatively tepid, simply because you've seen a lot of raw materials that have really begun to sort of base out, if you will, whether it be tungsten, whether it be steel scrap, those sorts of things. There's just not a lot of motion right now in raw materials, and you're seeing that in the pricing indices. Again, it does look like most fastener distributors are seeing annual increases in pricing, but the sequential trends have gotten a little bit better the last couple of months. But you're still hearing people talking about very slow rates of pricing expansion, and just not a lot of momentum on the pricing side. So yeah, clearly there is a pricing component to the PMI. I believe that the overall trend of late has been relatively stable, if you will, and that's what we're hearing as well, just tracking raw material prices themselves.
Well, and I'll throw in my own anecdote, which probably doesn't mean anything, but what I've noticed is in business travel, for example, preparing to go to the Fastener Show in Las Vegas in October, and some other travel that I have to do, is that the price of hotels and air travel is up significantly over last year. So I don't know if that means anything going forward or not, but that's my anecdote to add to the conversation.
There are a lot of interesting indicators out there that we're always trying to get our hands on. Things such as industrial guys or economic gurus that track box shipments, for instance. So, never rule out a clever little indicator. If hotels are busier and more expensive, then obviously there's more travel going on. It can't be a bad thing. But I'm pretty sure that type of price is not captured in the PMI.
Yeah, I know they didn't, but I mean, these are some significant. These are things that I do year in and year out for the last 15 years, and they've taken a major jump. But anyways, in conclusion, what is all of this information? What does it mean for the fastener distributors?
Well, I think it means that it's really the same course of action that has existed for the last 6 or 7 months, which is that there doesn't seem to be any significant risk that conditions are going to get worse. And therefore, perhaps fastener distributors should continue to be going forward with capital projects, with growth projects. This is an environment where at this point you're unlikely to be surprised either by a sudden drop or a sudden surge in demand, which basically that amounts to your ability to plan is probably about as high now as it's been in quite some time. We've had some very choppy years over the last 15. Your ability to plan is probably about as high now as it's been in a long time. And when there is predictability and visibility, that is an environment where you can best set up means of grabbing market share, introducing new products, opening new stores, all the various things that distribution does to continue to consolidate what remains a very fragmented overall market. So that would be the recommendation. And if confidence is indeed getting higher, I wouldn't be surprised at all if the listeners and respondents were in fact pretty heavily investing in those types of growth initiatives at this point.
Very good. Well, Holden, I want to thank you again for joining us to talk about the Fastener Distributor Index. It's a valuable tool, and we look forward to it soaring maybe in September when we talk to you next month.
Sounds great. Thanks, Mike.
Thank you. That was Holden Lewis of BB&T Capital Markets. Holden has a regular column on the FDI that appears in the print and digital editions of Fastener Technology International magazine. Next up, today's top Fastener Newsmaker headlines. The Cold Heading Company, which currently has 49 employees in Hudson, Indiana, will invest $950,000 on a 20,000 square foot expansion of its existing 70,000 square foot facility, and it will spend $4.2 million in new equipment for making fasteners, mostly for the automotive, agricultural, and heavy construction industries. The Cold Heading Company is based in Warren, Michigan, and it has manufacturing operations in Michigan, Ohio, and Indiana. Fastenal has reported a 2.5% increase in August 2013 sales compared to last year, even though the company had one less business day in August this year compared to 2012. Net sales were nearly $300 million for the month, or $13.5 million per day. Over the last year, Fastenal has opened dozens of new stores and added over 700 new jobs. MetMax Innovations, located in Tiffin, Ohio, has completed a tool room expansion to provide its customers with design, manufacturing, and development services for making fasteners and form parts on National Machinery forming equipment. National Machinery is the parent company of MetMax Innovations. Vossloh AG is opening a production plant for making its rail fastening systems in the USA. Regular production in the new plant is scheduled to begin in 2014, and the new plant in Waco, Texas will create 50 new manufacturing jobs. Tom Buddenbaum, membership chairman of the National Fastener Distributors Association, the NFDA, headquartered in Chicago, has announced that the following companies recently joined membership ranks of the NFDA: ABC Logistics, Brixton, Challenger Components, General Fasteners, JIT Industries, and RGS Parts. And our top newsmaker headline is that Women in the Fastener Industry, the membership group also known as Wi-Fi, has announced that Jill Shackelford of Porteous Fastener Company has been awarded with the Edith Cameron Scholarship. Jill is an inside salesperson at Porteous's Dallas-Fort Worth facility, and she will use this scholarship to attend the National Industrial Fastener and Mill Supply Expo in Las Vegas this October. While in Vegas, she will also participate in the 4th annual Wi-Fi Speaker Series and their networking event. Finally, let's turn to the back page for a review on the oaths of office taken by politicians. In our last back page report, we reviewed the 4th Amendment of the U.S. Constitution. In continuing with this constitutional theme, we're going to look at the oaths of office taken by various members of the federal government. The oath of office for the President of the United States is an oath or affirmation required by the United States Constitution. The wording is actually specified in the Constitution, and it reads, quote, "I do solemnly swear or affirm that I will faithfully execute the office of the President of the United States and will, to the best of my ability, preserve, protect, and defend the Constitution of the United States," end quote. The oath of office for members of Congress is similar, but its wording was expanded around the time of the Civil War to weed out traitors to the United States. It now reads, quote, "I do solemnly swear or affirm that I will support and defend the Constitution of the United States against all enemies, foreign and domestic, that I will bear true faith and allegiance to the same, that I take this obligation freely without any mental reservation or purpose of evasion, and that I will well and faithfully discharge the duties of the office on which I am about to enter, so help me God," end quote. Judges and other officials take similar oaths, and the common denominator of all of these is adherence to the United States Constitution, which obviously implies a firm understanding of the Constitution. That sounds pretty reasonable to me, but I believe that most federal officials not only don't take this oath seriously, but I think that most of them would fail a high school test on the U.S. Constitution. My take is that if you took out the word Constitution from these oaths and replaced them with the words, quote, "my ego, my ideas, and my power," end quote, the oath of office would be more accurate for a high percentage of current office holders from both political parties. This has been Mike McNulty of Fastener Technology International, bringing you the Fastener News Report. Remember to send your news, pictures, comments, corrections, or complaints to me at mcnulty@fastenertech.com.
it's Fastener Renaissance Man, Charlie Kerr, on Fully Threaded.
For a selection of hundreds of thousands of fasteners, check out your local Fastenal store or fastenal.com. We can stock domestic or internationally sourced product locally and keep your bin stock filled for you at no additional expense. We are a 9001-2008 certified company that's made a huge investment in quality control so you don't have to. And if you can't find it on our shelf, we can make it for you at the quantity you need at one of our many manufacturing facilities. Learn more by contacting your local Fastenal store or visiting fastenal.com today.
Business is all about relationships. Relationships with our business partners, customers, suppliers, banks, employees, and our coworkers. Where do you go to get advice on the challenges you have with your business relationships? Hi, everyone. This is Tom Buddenbaum with Technology Components Southwest and the NFDA. The National Fastener Distributor Association has hundreds of people who share your concerns and your values, and probably some of them also have experienced your challenges. Get advice, ideas, and inspiration from people who understand your business. Participate in the NFDA. Visit our website for details, website nfda-fastener.org, or give us a call at 714-484-4747. And save the date for our next conference, February 12th through the 15th in Palm Springs, California. This is a joint conference with the Pacific West Fastener Association, and it is sure to be informative and fun. Once again, this is Tom Buddenbaum for the NFDA. I look forward to seeing you on board soon.
Fastener friends, if you're looking to celebrate a big sale, or if you just want to unwind after a tough day on the job, do it with the golden brown goodness of Old Rusty Bolt beer. It is the finest tasting beer in the Fastener world because Old Rusty Bolt beer is brewed specifically to satisfy the palates of Fastener folks everywhere. That name again, Old Rusty Bolt beer. An Old Rusty Bolt added to every bottle to enhance flavoring. Get some today. The preceding message was brought to you by Buckeye Fasteners and Holden Bolt Company, official Fastener show sponsors of Old Rusty Bolt, the preferred beer of traveling salesmen. Tell them Rusty sent you.
Hi, this is Mary Louise, the True Lady from All Points Fasteners in California. You're listening to Fully Threaded Radio.
Brian and Eric back with you, Fully Threaded Radio. Regular listeners know that we're a predominantly fastener-related talk show, and our next guest is definitely capable of discussing fasteners as well as many other subjects. Returning to Fully Threaded, it's Mr. Charlie Kerr. Hey, Charlie, thanks for joining us again.
Well, I appreciate the invitation to come back.
Welcome.
Now, last time I talked to you, it was in June back at Fastener Tech, and we both attended a very, very foggy baseball game over at Wrigley that night. Cubs didn't win. I don't think they have too good a chances for the rest of the season either.
All right, well, I got to straighten you out on one thing. The game I went to was down the road at the U.S. Cellular Field. It was the White Sox.
Oh.
Yeah, it was foggy. Yeah, you sure your memory's not failing you?
No, actually, I'm not sure. I don't know how I got those mixed up. Let me tell you, there were a lot of Fastener people at Wrigley that night.
Well, I'll tell you what, I went to a game and it got delayed by fog. I did not go to Wrigley Field during that trip, but yeah, I was with, there were some Fastener people on the White Sox game. But hey, I don't care if it's Wrigley Field, U.S. Cellular Field, Busch Stadium in St. Louis. If the team's in town, and I can pick up tickets, I'm grabbing either a supplier, a customer, a competitor, and we're on our way.
Right. Well, I know you're a huge fan. Who do you like for the postseason?
Well, let me give you a little background here. I'm an Indians season ticket holder. I'm in a group, and we got an email from the Indians. Get ready to order postseason tickets. The invoice is almost $10,000. They are not going to the World Series. And I don't feel like giving the Cleveland Indians an interest-free loan. It'd be like $2,500 of my money on top of the $1,800 already put down on the 2014 ticket renewal. I'm in the wrong business, Eric.
Yeah, we might all be in the wrong business, actually.
But so seriously, to answer your question, I like the Tigers to win the division. The Central Division in the American League. They're, I think, going back to the World Series. Whether or not they repeat, I don't know. I made a fool of myself last year when I said they would take, 4 out of, or they would, run the table 4-0 in San Francisco. And sure enough, the table got run. The only thing is the wrong team did it. But I'm not a real big fan of the wild card. But it is what it is. I think you should win your division to get into the playoffs, period.
Oh, I agree. But they screwed it all up when they went to 3 divisions in each league. I mean, that's what you get.
Well, here's part of the problem with this. And this is why I don't like the wild card. Back in the Stone Age, when you had, East and West division, every team in the league played the same schedule. The White Sox played the Yankees, the Tigers, the Red Sox the same number of times as the Indians did. So if there was a situation where you're looking for who had, the second best record, you're playing a balanced schedule. Well, now, Indians play, let me think here for a minute. The Houston Astros are not in our division, but they're the worst team in baseball. So the Texas Rangers, who are in the hunt for a wild card spot, have probably played them 15 to 18 times. Where a team in the Eastern Division, even though Toronto was supposed to be anointed, just hand them the thing, they're in last place right now. They got to play the Yankees, the Orioles, Tampa Bay, and Boston. All of those teams are better, without any argument at all, than the Houston Astros. So that gives, I think, an unfair advantage to the team in the Western Division in terms of the wild card. I know there's a second wild card slot now, which kind of takes a little bit of that edge away. I'm old school. Win the division, or you shouldn't go to the playoffs.
I'm with you on that one. And maybe what we could do, since it doesn't look like this mess is going to be straightened out anytime soon, is maybe some of those teams in the basement, maybe we should let a couple of their guys do a little juice, Yeah,
there you go. I think it would be fun just because it's been a long time. I'd like to see the Pittsburgh Pirates win their division and go to the World Series. I think they're young. I think, the pressure of postseason play will probably catch up with them if they get in. But, I like Detroit, and I'm not totally sold on Oakland right now. It's just, Detroit has top to bottom, from their leadoff hitter through their, ninth hitter, power. Now, they've got probably, the slowest infield in all of baseball, but when they can score 7 or 8 runs a game, it doesn't matter.
Now, you go to a lot of different parks all over the country, and, I've heard this comment made from a few guys. Do you sit around watching or observing the way that everything's constructed and just imagining all the fasteners that go into one of these facilities?
I do that all the time. Obviously, socket head cap screws are not used in construction, but last year, there's a minor league baseball field on the west side of Cleveland. It's called All Pro Stadium. It's basically semi-pro. A couple like colleges use it, but it's a nice for the class of player that plays there. It's a very nice facility. Well, in the middle of the night, one of the light standards fell into what would be the seating area behind third base, and there's a picture of it in the newspaper. And the first thing I did was look at the base, and sure enough, the nuts were still there. It just the tubing it was made out of sheared off. I'm thinking if the nuts were gone, that would have meant there'd been a fastener failure. And boy, am I glad I'm not in that business. But it's one of these things that, sort of to toot my own horn, sometimes I run into a stranger and I'll say, well, what do you do? I said, well, our company makes high strength, critical application fasteners. And said, well, like what? I said, well, like if they break when they're in service, people can get killed. And that's not always the case, but there are circumstances under which, the fastener fails. It happened in Kansas City when that catwalk at the Hyatt Hotel failed.
Right.
That was a fastener failure. Take that very seriously. But when I go to a stadium or any other new construction that's got a lot of exposed metal and you can see the fasteners, I pay attention to it. It's my business. Chairlifts are all bolted together, and as I'm going across one of the crevices from the top of one mountain to the other, you look up and see, I recognize that head mark. I hope they made good screws that day.
You're meant to be looking at the field to work out how you can ski down it.
Well, I haven't been skiing in a while, but no, I pay close attention to that. And, when there's items in the newspaper, whether it's, bridge collapse or, something else, even though that's not the market we're into, it still is negative publicity for the industry, whether there was a quality problem with the screw, the wrong screw is spec for the application. My son's a commercial airline pilot, and of course there's a lot of fasteners used in the airplanes. And every time there's an incident, the first thing I think of is, you remember when the engine fell off one of the, I think it was a DC-10 down in Dallas? It was a bolt that broke. And the IFI did a rather extensive video called Danger on Board. It's about counterfeit fasteners. This is pre-FQA days. And back to the original statement that I made about critical application. I take that very seriously. Those screws got to carry the load when they're installed. And, I think most people, not most, I'll say all people domestically that I know take that very seriously as well. And when there are moments of bad publicity for the industry, it happens. But I think at the end of the day, I think our industry, day in and day out, puts product on the street that works the way it's supposed to, and everybody using it. And I'm talking about competitors of mine, too. The end user should have the highest level of confidence possible. And the reason why I want to say that is because even though we might be at a competitive advantage from time to time, if you want screws to meet the spec, buy American-made products.
We agree. Okay. It's been our view of Fully Threaded for a fair while now, after we talked to Harry Mosier.
Yeah, I've had the opportunity to sit in on a couple presentations he's done, and I have to admit, when I first heard about him, I was a little bit skeptical. I mean, this probably goes back 5 or 6 years already. But he has put together, it's sophisticated, but it's not complicated. It's a calculator that's on their website that enables companies that are sourcing product in China or other low-cost labor parts of the world to actually find out the true cost of ownership, not just the cost of purchasing it. And as I've said in previous conversations with Eric, I am convinced, beyond a shadow of a doubt, one of the reasons why Kerr Lakeside, last October 31st, we finished our fiscal year. We set an all-time sales record for our hex socket screw line in the middle of a weak economy.
Yeah.
Why? Because I think reshoring is happening. It's not only I think is there a preference for domestically produced product, but I think that a lot of the stamping shops, a lot of the molding shops, their tools are held together with socket head cap screws. Whatever they're molding, whether it's a cake pan, or that'd be a stamping, or a faucet handle, which would be plastic injection molding, a lot of this stuff that's previously been made in China is coming back. And the tools, are being held together with, in many cases, domestically produced product. We never lost socket screw sales directly to mainland Chinese-produced fasteners. Where we lost the business was a stamping shop that would specify Kerr Lakeside socket-head gap screws from his distributor lost the business or took the business to China. Well, they're not going to use Kerr Lakeside screws in a Chinese stamping factory. So it's called, the term that I've used, it's not one I made up. I read it somewhere and it just stuck with me. It's called downstreaming. And now that this product is being remanufactured here in the United States, demand for fasteners, and many of them are domestically produced, is starting to augment. Now, one thing that I'll throw in here, 2 weeks ago, Parade Magazine, which is an insert that comes with my Sunday newspaper, did a multi-page feature about the reemergence of manufacturing. And not all of it was focused on reshoring because, there's some people out there, there are startups that are, making stuff here that is either things they invented or their own design. But reshoring was referred to. And former Secretary of Labor, Robert Reich, had been interviewed, I guess, as they contacted him, to contribute some pearls of wisdom to this article.
Yeah, that's a good one.
And he said pretty much the same thing Harry Mosier said. We will face a constraint to capitalizing on this. And what that is the availability of a skilled workforce. They're either people with the existing skills or people that have the mental aptitude to learn the skills. And I agree with that. Right now, I could run 2 more headers on night shift if I could find someone to come into the shop and not smash them up. I mean, it got to the point we had one fellow come in. We spent more time fixing the machine than we did running it, and that was the end of that. But the demand for domestically produced product is going to create a labor shortage in our industry, if it hasn't already.
Well, this is a topic that seems, we always wind up here. Now, realistically, how long do you figure it would take us to retool as a country to get a workforce adequate enough to support the reshoring that you're seeing? I mean, is this something that is going to happen, or what's your view on that?
Well, I'm going to digress for 1 second, but you'll understand why. A week ago, I was in Detroit, and I had 4 hours to kill, so I went to the Henry Ford Museum.
Yeah.
And the first place I always go is their car collection because that's neat. The second place that I go is their machine collection. And they had like lathes, mills, other metalworking machines back from the late 1800s up until, say maybe the 1920s, 1930s, basically pre-World War II metalworking technology. That was state-of-the-art for, now keep in mind, cold heading's a little different, but I'm talking screw machines, lathes. That was state-of-the-art way of making stuff up until probably the early to mid-'60s when the tape machines and other, computer control equipment started to hit the market. They're very skill-intensive. Today, you've got machines that are computer-intensive. If the engineer knows what he's doing and he writes a good program, it's not quite as dependent upon the operator. Now, there's troubleshooting that comes into that. Now, the reason why I took the trouble to make this comparison between skill-intensive equipment that basically would go back to, say, the era before, the mid-1960s, and more computer-intensive equipment is the learning curve is going to be a lot shorter, but it's still going to be expensive because you got the cost of educating the people, and you have some of the subtle costs. And let's face it, you're going to have a guy run some scrap or not make rate. But if it takes, say 4 or 5 years, it's worth doing. Now, if you'd asked me this question back in the 1940s, I'd say, holy cow, that could take 10 years or longer. And it kind of depends, a little bit from technology to technology, but you got to start somewhere. And if, Robert Reich, back to, him, one of the suggestions that he made was that we reinstitute, I'll use the term industrial arts. Schools don't have, wood shop or metal shop or print shop or welding. They got rid of all that. And they need to start instituting that so that when a kid walks in the door of my factory and I hand him a 1-inch brown and sharp micrometer, I don't have to explain to him what it is, which would be much more time consuming. Show him how to use the darn thing. He'd already know that because he'd worked in a machine shop at the high school. So at the high school level, or maybe even a little bit before that, the junior high level, if somehow the schools would make an investment in some equipment and some people that, like myself, quite frankly, I wouldn't mind teaching part-time. I couldn't do a lot of it, but I could go in twice a week for 2 hours, teach a class at the local high school, and I'd have a vested interest in it because it's the local high school. If the kids came out of there and they knew some stuff that I taught them, and I would know who the goof-offs were and who the kids that had brains in their head, I might hire some of them. So I really didn't answer your question. I don't think we should get too concerned about how long it would take to repopulate the workforce. because that's looking for an excuse not to do it. I'm looking for reasons like, let's figure out a way to back into this so it works for everybody. We have a lot of money invested in machines here, and I'm always trying to figure out a way to, either get someone in here. One time we were so desperate, I ran an ad for an auto repair guy, and I got laughed at. I go, why'd you do that? I say, because if he knows how to fix cars, he's got a toolbox.
That's right.
I'm serious. He's got tools. He's got wrenches. He's going to know how to use some of this stuff.
Yeah.
All I was trying to do is find someone to run a Waterbury Ferro flat die thread roller, because we re-roll our screws after heat treat. And I figured if a kid's got a toolbox, I say kid. I mean, you're not allowed to, hire like that, but I was looking for someone that we could train. And I figured if he'd invested a couple $1,000 in a toolbox, he is someone we could train to run those machines.
Good thinking, actually.
Well, it sounds like that's the only way it's going to happen, because it's really not being supported widely. And I guess it's just a great pity that you don't need to have condoms put on your machinery, because otherwise you'd probably have them lined up.
Well, it's first of all, working in a factory, whether it's a heading plant, a stamping plant, it's not real glamorous, but one of the things that I'm all for education. In fact, Lakeland Community College, which is not far from our plant, has a 2-year degree, and I was involved in helping set it up, the curriculum. In fact, I'm embarrassed to admit I forget the exact name of the degree, but it's basically manufacturing technology sciences. You learn some CNC programming. You learn different tool geometries. You learn how to use precision measuring tools. You learn a little bit about wiring inside the machine, and difference between 110, 220 3-phase, single phase, and at least what the kids have when they finish this degree are the fundamentals to get into a place like mine or someone else's, so they're not learning the stuff from square one. I'm a baseball coach, and I love working with the youngest kids that are coming out of coach pitch into player pitch, because I like teaching the fundamentals, and I literally start at the feet, how your feet are on the ground. You don't throw with your feet, but if your feet aren't positioned properly, you're never going to throw the ball in a straight line. Same thing with bringing someone into this industry. If they've got math skills, they've got some verbal skills, they've been involved in some educational situations that challenge them to develop problem-solving skills, they're trainable. And right now, I forget where I got this statistic from, or not statistic. 15 years from now, pretend I'm talking to a group of kids that are about to graduate from high school. 15 years from now, those kids will be in positions that do not exist today. And the example that I use to illustrate that is when I was in high school, no one went to school to learn how to fix computers because there weren't any. That was a hot market for a while back in, say, the early to mid-'80s. If you knew how to fix a computer, you could write your own ticket.
Right.
Well, now they're throwaway items. And so those computer repair people that were, doing really well, they had to go out and figure out something else to do for a living. They had to learn a new skill. And I think this technology...
That sounds kind of familiar, doesn't it, Brian?
Yeah, I think so.
Well, the point I'm trying to make is that don't learn how to pound a nail. That's probably the wrong way to say it. There's nothing wrong with being a carpenter. A lot of, guys that I'm friends with, I've coached baseball with, work in the trades. You want to know how to build things, and there's a difference. Look at, an idea and figure out how to turn it into a finished product. If all you know how to do is cut boards and pound nails, that's all you're going to do for the rest of your life. And right now, I don't think that our school systems are giving kids, they all want to send everybody to college, which I think is all well and good. All 3 of my kids went to school. They all graduated. They're all well off in their careers. They're doing really well. Not everybody is meant to go to college. Right. You got kids coming out of some of the universities with degrees that, quite frankly, I think are worthless in terms of career path. Intercultural perspectives. What the heck are you going to do with a master's degree in that?
No, point well taken. It might come in handy if the country gets taken over by God knows who, but aside from that, I don't know where you're going to be able to earn a living with that.
Well, when I was in Germany, I graduated from college in 1979. Everybody that, I'm not going to take a long time to say this, but I met a number of people. I met janitors, because I had a job, and I met executives and everybody in between. And it was noticeable right away. The people that had the menial, low-paying jobs only spoke German, possibly limited broken English. People that were in management positions or on their way to them not only spoke German, they spoke English very well, they spoke Spanish very well, and they spoke French very well. And I know it gets a little bit political, like, okay, press 1 for Spanish or 2 for English or whatever. The reality of the situation is a lot of people in the world, whether they're here in the United States or somewhere else, they got money in their pocket. And it's going to be a lot easier for you to have them spend it with you if you can talk to them in their language. In our schools, I mean, you can learn a little bit of Italian, a little bit of Spanish, but we're graduating kids that are proficient at best in English and have no proficiency at all in any other languages. And I think that's terrible.
Yeah, it's definitely a national challenge, and a lot of people have made that observation. I guess that's one of the luxuries. You kind of get to go soft when you have a $15 trillion economy and so much action's going on here, but I guess that's going to be diminishing over time, and those are all points well taken. Well, let's roll back for a second, Charlie. If I could, I just want to ask you really quickly if related to reshoring and you see the activity increasing from your perspective, do you see any other factors that are contributing to this? I mean, you mentioned Harry's education efforts and his tool, but I mean, do you see any other concrete variables in the equation that's making reshoring seem to be taking off?
Well, transportation costs are a factor there, but one thing that is a concern of mine, and I'm probably the most evasive, I should be a politician. I'm always answering the question that you didn't ask. Interest rates right now are, I'll use the term artificially low. Mm-hmm. And that has made investment in the United States less expensive. But there's a lot of money sitting on the sidelines, too, and we talked about that previously. If something happens and a lot of the money, for instance, if you get $5 million, the bank would charge you to keep that on deposit. They're not going to pay you interest. They're going to charge you. That's how low interest rates are right now. But if someone said, I'm going to invest that $5 million and, whether you went out and, put a bunch of new, headers, if something happens to give people the incentive to turn a lot of this hoarded cash into machine tools and other capital infrastructure, that could really get the steam going. But there's political uncertainty, and people are kind of, cooling their heels because uncertainty is not consistent with people who are in a position to take financial risks, taking the risks. And people have to take risks to contribute to the sustained economic growth. So if the interest rates start to tick up, we could see everything that's been accomplished in the last couple of years just literally evaporate into thin air. So I'm not going to sit here and tell you I know it's going to happen going forward. I'm very optimistic, but I could be wrong too.
Yeah, Eric and I listened to a guy, Bill Strauss, is one of the Treasury analysts in Chicago. His view, he had a very interesting view, which is that the US is going to become increasingly more attractive as a center for manufacturing simply because the cost of energy is so much lower in the United States. And he was giving the figures, the cost of getting, gas or something to a factory in the US is whatever, say, equivalent of $5 or something. And they said in China it's something like 9 to 12, and in Europe it's 20. He said the reality is it's going to be really expensive to manufacture anywhere except the U.S.
I toured factories in China when I was on a mission there. This would have been 8 years ago, so it's not real recent. Mm-hmm. But all the factories that we went into, or not all of them, a number of them were doing heat treating. But it was all electric induction, which is very slow, very expensive, very labor intensive. And one of the guys that spoke real good English, I asked him, I said, why aren't you guys using, atmosphere controlled batch furnaces or even for your large production, continuous furnaces? He said, we don't have any gas. Now, you have to have an abundant supply of natural gas to do that. So I don't know if that meant that the infrastructure wasn't in place to get it out of the ground and delivered, or if China just doesn't have gas deposits. But the state of Ohio and western Pennsylvania, there's this geologic formation called the Marcellus Shale. There's another one out there that I can't remember the name of. Some geologists that work for the energy companies believe there could be enough gas in that to make the Middle East irrelevant from a hydrocarbon fuel standpoint. And that would be so huge. And I realize that there's some challenges getting the stuff out of the ground. You know, the environmentalists are concerned. You know, fracking is controversial. I think a lot of the people that are against it are not dealing with correct facts. But if we can exploit that resource, I agree. You know, my son is the commercial airline pilot. He went to school up in North Dakota. From the time he started there until he left Grand Forks, they went from potatoes and sugar beets being the main industry up there, and in the western part of the state, hotel rooms are impossible to get. I mean, people went there to start working in the oil sands, I think is what they've got out there.
Yeah.
So some of these politicians just don't understand that we need energy, you know, like an electric car. Okay, so it doesn't, you know, put, you know, carbon monoxide out the tailpipe. It still needs to get this battery charged from someplace. And that's going to be either oil, coal, or natural gas.
Well, they do understand it. It suits them not to tell the truth about it. As long as the electricity can be produced somewhere where they don't see, they're happy. But the fact is, every electric car that has to get plugged into the wall, someone's running a coal-fired power station to generate the electricity.
Exactly. And it's one of those things. Actually, see, the reason why I always beat the drum for natural gas, it is clean burning.
Yep.
Now, in fact, you know, there's more and more vehicles on the road. Most of them are buses that are run by the, you know, transportation agencies, whether it's municipal, county, or whatever. I think you're going to start to see more private vehicles run on gas. It's, you know, once again, the infrastructure, you know, how you fill it up. And like we run propane fork trucks in our plant. You know, okay, you take an empty tank off the back of the truck, put a full tank on. You can't really do that with a passenger vehicle. It wouldn't be practical.
Right.
But I think the day is coming where you're going to see vehicles on the road in number. I mean, there's a couple of them out there right now on an experimental basis.
Right.
But you're going to see more vehicles in number that are actually running on natural gas.
Actually, there's an article in the Tribune this morning saying that Burlington Northern, one of the big railway lines, is contracted Caterpillar to manufacture a new gas-powered engine, which they are right into the process of making already for its trains. And they're ready to start trialling next year, I believe. And they say that the cost of running it in gas as opposed to diesel is such a wide margin that it suits them to make completely new trains and ditch the old ones. It's cheaper. And they said, of course, they don't have the problem of distribution because, you know, trains are only running along railway lines, and they can just stick a, you know, place here and there.
Well, one thing also that gives natural gas a huge advantage, for all practical purposes, when it comes out of the ground, it's ready to be used. Diesel fuel doesn't come out of the ground as diesel fuel.
Right.
It comes out of the ground as crude oil, and it's got to be refined, which means you have to take it someplace.
Yep.
You have to, you know, put it through the refinery, and then you have to take it someplace else. Well, with natural gas, you don't have to take it anywhere except where it's going to be burned. And it's, you know, from a logistics standpoint, it gives it a huge advantage.
Yeah, I remember when I was still living in New Zealand. In fact, when I was just got out of university or somewhere like that, you had the oil crisis in the US. Well, New Zealand had it too. Anyone who sided with the US was suddenly bad people, persona non grata to the Arabs, and so they stopped selling any oil to New Zealand. So New Zealand ran out of all oil products, and South Africa secretly shipped it to New Zealand. It was all, you know, made out of coal. But the fact was, so the government said, we've got to do something. We had tons of gas, and they set about converting to natural gas. And we had nearly half the cars on the road where you could buy a fitting that was stuck underneath as an old car and the carburetor and would convert it to gas. You had a switch. Do you want to run, petrol, gasoline, or gas? And the only problem was if you made it permanent, you had to stick this bloody tank in the back of your trunk. But it worked perfectly well. All the taxis still in New Zealand are all gas.
That makes sense. But we've got, the geologists don't know what they're talking about. We've got way too much gas underground not to spend some time and money getting it out.
Oh, no. Hey, I had a Corvette Stingray, and I had the fitting. I didn't like it particularly, but I had the fitting to run my Corvette on gas, okay? It's petrol or gas. It was a little harder to start up in the morning. That was the only thing. It was a difference. But the rest of it ran fine.
Did you see any reduction in horsepower?
A slight. But then again, I had plenty, so it didn't matter that much. But the fact was, people have been able to run cars on gas for years. A lot of the technology came out of Italy, actually. That's where all of our equipment came from in New Zealand. And, what the Italians are doing, I have no idea. However, the fact is, it's perfectly viable, but, it falls into the problem of being called sustainable.
Well, I'm glad you used that word sustainable, because I've had some of these, trendy people, whatever, sustainable. It's like, look, the sun is going to burn out someday. Nothing is perpetual. Now, hopefully, it won't burn out till long after, I've left the planet. Nothing is sustainable. They say, well, when? Okay, well, I get that. But, in fact, being that we're in the socket screw business, there was a show in Chicago, I'll say 5 or 6 years ago. And I got so excited. I walked through this McCormick place, huge exhibit hall, as you guys know, because Eric, you're from Chicago. All the gearboxes were bolted together with socket head cap screws. And I knew, I'm not saying this to diss the industry, those things are maintenance intensive. And when something's held together with socket head cap screws and it's maintenance intensive, that is an emerging market for my product. I think they're so maintenance intensive, a lot of people were start to, put them up, thought, this might not be such a good idea. You don't have dependability problems with natural gas unless a pipeline breaks someplace. And while it's great, TV, with the flames and the smoke, it happens very rarely.
Yeah.
It's, I think it's a safe energy source. And, I'm in Ohio. In fact, I'd actually thought about looking into putting a gas well on our property here. But it's like anything else. I just never got around to it and probably never will.
Well, gentlemen, this has been a far-reaching conversation.
Predominantly fastener related.
I don't know, was it? Well, listen, hey, we're gonna leave it right there. I just have one more question for you. Last time we talked to you, we heard your companion fastener dog there in the background. Is Webster with you today?
Nah, I'm at the office today. Last time we talked, I was working from home. In fact, I know that at the risk of giving away trade secrets, you like to do these things via Skype, and the computer that was all loaded up on was at the house. But today I'm at the office, and Webster is, my wife gets home from work in about 20 minutes, so, he'll probably wake up from his nap. But he's a good dog. I've had a number over the years, and from being smart, being well-behaved, I bring him down to work now, and then the people, we have multiple buildings here, and sometimes I'll let him go up and spend time with the girls in accounting. We're going to run around the warehouse. I got baseballs in there, and people will throw them, and he'll chase them around. So even though he's not an employee, he certainly is known by the people who work here.
Nothing like a fastener dog.
Right.
Well, Charlie Kerr, you are with Kerr Lakeside. People can visit you online at kerrlakeside.com. You've been around for 65 years manufacturing quality products, cap screws, socket heads, and the like. And sure do appreciate you joining us again on Fully Threaded.
Well, I appreciate being on. Listen, next time, if I earn an encore appearance, I want to tell you a little bit about these negotiating books that I've recently read. I think your listeners will find that interesting. A little teaser for 6 months down the road.
So you got a deal.
Okay.
Charlie Kerr, thanks so much.
Yeah, thanks, Mike.
No, hey, thanks for having me on.
We'll be right back to kickstart the conclusion of this episode, if that makes any sense.
It's fully threaded.
When top quality and outstanding service are at the top of your list in fastener suppliers, turn to Stellfast. Since 1976, Stellfast has grown to become an industry-leading importer and manufacturer of the highest quality industrial fasteners, specialty items, and automotive parts. Our array of facilities across North America and in Asia, along with full quality control labs and ISO 9001-2008 certifications, ensure the highest quality parts, and at Stellfast, they're delivered with undisputed service excellence. We're family-run and dedicated to your success. Our customers have come to depend on the expertise of our staff and the quality of our products. We also offer a wide range of secondary services to meet some of the toughest requirements you might have. Contact Stellfast today through our website at www.stellfast.com and put us to work for you. Stellfast. Service you deserve, people you trust.
fastenersclearinghouse.com. Search and source from over 500,000 line items, or just a mouse click away and available at no charge. When the need arises, you won't find a better place to locate hard-to-find fastener inventory. It's where you need to be.
This is Joe Truckee of Cal Fasteners, and Fasteners Clearinghouse works for us.
This is Robert Wanzer, and Fasteners Clearinghouse works for American Imperial.
This is Andy Pell from ScrewCrew.com, and FCH works for the fastener industry.
Join the sourcing network now and show your inventory to a whole new market. Turn slow movers into cash. List up to 10,000 line items. Show them to distributors only or to the world. FastenersClearinghouse.com. It's where you need to be.
Hi, this is Hugh Hewitt for the Injured Marine Semper Fi Fund, www.semperfifund.org. Over the past 7 years, twice a year, the wonderful people who operate the Semper Fi Fund and many amazing Marines who have been the beneficiaries of the charities that have supported the Semper Fi Fund, including many thousands of individual donors, have come into my radio studio to tell their amazing stories of serving their country, of being wounded, and how the Semper Fi Fund has helped them make that transition back to recovery. Unfortunately, Bethesda and Walter Reed are full again. More and more men and women are coming back from the war injured, sometimes awfully so. We need the Semper Fi Fund to be there for these Marines and those soldiers, sailors, and airmen who served alongside of them. Please consider a gift to the Semper Fi Fund. Very low overhead, extraordinary capacity to get money where it needs to get in a hurry, and great management, including some of the senior Marines who've ever served under the flag. When you're looking for something to do that will make an impact, please check out the Semper Fi Fund. That's www.semperfifund.org, www.semperfifund.org.
Fastener Talk Radio. It's like feng shui for the fastener industry. Brian and Eric. Fully Threaded Radio.
Hey, this is Clayton Allen from Buckeye Fasteners in Cleveland, Ohio. And you're listening to Fully Threaded Radio.
Brian and Eric, your online fastener brothers in thread, back with you.
Right.
Yeah, it's good to know there are fastener dogs out there romping around fastener warehouses all over this great country, Brian, you know?
I think my fastener dog might have been doing a bit of barking recently, too.
Yes, and although we just heard about Webster, the fastener dog, over there at Kerr Lakeside, there's breaking news with Jack, the fastener dog, at the FCH West facility, and I don't know, Bri, how you're going to deal with all this. Maybe you can fill us in on the latest, but Jack recently went outside one evening, and he got zapped in the face by a skunk.
Right, and it's not the thing you want to have to deal with at 11 o'clock at night, I can assure you.
Or any time.
Right, but it's pretty horrific. Anyway, one of the neighbors who'd had the same problem told us that you have to pour Diet Coke or Pepsi or something over them and then wipe the hair with that and then wash them. So that's what we did. It actually worked pretty well.
Is that right? Man,
Yeah.
there's another one of these screamer stories about a diet soft drink. Like, I don't know. It has these amazing toxic properties.
Well, I think the real thing is because there are a number of things to get rid of the skunk, but I think it's the acid, the carbonic acid, and I think that's what's doing the working. So whether you would use Pepsi or Sprite or something like that, I think it's the carbonic, the bubbles, the carbonic acid that's really doing the work. However, I have to say that it was, from when I realized the problem when Jack came in the house to, half an hour later, it was like a miraculous transformation.
Well, I'm glad to hear that worked out for you.
Right. Now, another fastener-related business.
Yeah, exactly.
Having dealt with these problems.
Well, thanks to Charlie Kerr of Kerr Lakeside for joining us on today's episode, as well as Rick Perkaus of Fastener Specialties Manufacturing. And as always, Mike McNulty of Fastener Technology International Magazine and Holden Lewis of BB&T Capital Markets.
Yeah, I've been wondering about Holden and his views on the difference between the FDI, which is sort of in the doldrums, and the PMI that seems to be coming out of a different planet.
Yeah, it's a great question, and we've kind of sort of got some kind of correlation, but not really.
Right.
I think, we had a conversation with him off air on that, and he's got a variety of reasons for why that is. We'll have to just keep watching for the time being, but it's a great question, and we just all appreciate everybody's input on FDI, and we're going to just keep driving it. You can send us your input or questions to the email address ftr@fullythreaded.com. And as always, we're out there on Twitter under the handle Fully Threaded. Also like to thank our sponsors on today's episode, and the title sponsors are Stellfast. For service you deserve and people you trust, it's Stellfast. And Trinity Hardware Headquarters. Trinity, for parts done right. Fully Threaded is also sponsored by Buckeye Fasteners, Fastenal, Volt Industrial Plastics, and Solution Industries, home of Solution Man. So, Bri, to close out the show, we threatened to discuss the recent news put out by Apple, and there's a lot of mixed media messages coming out on this, as you would expect.
Yeah.
What was your kind of final synopsis on this whole thing?
Well, I think the once great closed domain of Apple has sort of got a bit open, and so it was no real secret what they were going to announce. What no one really expected was that they were going to completely discontinue the iPhone 5, which is not their usual pattern. And their view is that the new color plastic case iPhone is the replacement for the iPhone 5. So they've released a new model and fancy things, but the thing about it is the touch sensitivity, or the means of reading your fingerprint, is its new way of getting identifying who the owner is. No software really can use it except the operating system. But the other thing, which is more important, is that the phone has got an ability to detect nearness of objects, and that's the aim is to try and find out where someone is in a shop, okay? And none of the current detecting mechanisms are good enough for that. So, it'll take a while. The technical specs no one really cares about. I think the more important thing is that they're going to release a new look to the operating system that's going to make all of the iPhones look sort of modern, okay? And it's probably going to set the stage for all other phones, I'd say.
Well, that remains to be seen. One of the really dramatic headlines that I saw, and this was obviously not written by any kind of an Apple fanboy. This one was from...
There's a lot of those.
Right. And this one was from thestreet.com. I saw this by way of LinkedIn's news feed, and the headline was Google laughs at the new iPhones. And it's really an article well worth reading. You know, I'm an agnostic when it comes to all these technology platforms. As you know, I was never really into Apple. I've always really enjoyed using the Apple iPhone. I'm on my second one. I've got the iPhone 5 now, and it served me well, with one exception, which I'll mention in a minute. But they really regard in this story the whole finger scanning technology is a big yawn. They give a couple of reasons why. And they point out some really dramatic price differences. And they are suggesting that Apple's got its work cut out for it if it wants to remain in the market. And, of course, people seem to think that Apple's got a really domineering position in the market, which they really don't. I read some statistics recently, and I'm sorry I can't cite the source, but worldwide mobile device market share, Android about 80%, Apple only about 13%. So they really can't afford any slippage, and they need a big win. And according to a lot of people, this recent news from Apple does not constitute that.
No, but there's, that's only the Apple news relating to the phone. I mean, there's other things going on. They believe they're going to announce another set of things probably next week, or probably not even announce them, just release them. Some they're going to update their little Apple TV thing, and of course the big thing that they're working on is the new gadget of the world, the phone, the wristwatch.
Yeah, well, that all remains to be seen, and
right,
we'll be standing by for all that. Now, I want to tell you, I was reading about this somewhat recently, and you've seen stories here and there about these public messages that are going to be forced into your smartphone. Well, it finally happened to me just about a week back. I'm sitting there, it was early evening, and all of a sudden my phone just barked really loud, and lo and behold, it was an Amber Alert that just was piped into my phone. So that had never happened before, and it was kind of unpleasant because it really wasn't applicable to my situation, and I really don't want anything broadcast into my phone that I don't approve of. Well,
yeah, there is that.
I went out and I discovered that there's some settings in the iPhone, and I'm pretty sure this is on Android as well, but if you look under your notifications section of your settings, you'll find a government communications option area. And there's two varieties. There's Amber Alerts and Emergency Alerts. So I discontinued the Amber Alerts. Well, just yesterday, we had a small rainfall here. And about a half an hour later, after it had cleared through, you guessed it, my phone barked out loud. It scared me half out of my desk chair. And it was one of these emergency alerts. And, aside from the fact that it came way too late and it was warning me to find shelter immediately because it was raining out, which I don't need to be told, it just kind of scares me because, what are the next kind of alerts we're going to be subjected to? I mean,
yeah, I know. There is, yeah.
I turned it off, but I'm just wondering how long we'll have the option. Now, are you going to keep your smartphone when they force you to receive all these government-issued messages, Brian?
Look, I'm just counting the days when I can get the latest iPhone 5S, okay?
Just can't wait for that fingerprint recognition, huh?
No, actually, it isn't that. Something's sort of gone wrong with my phone that sort of the battery keeps going flat day by day, and it's some application, and no one can find it. No, certainly not me. And so the phone is sort of not a lot of use, actually, because you have to have it charging up all day long. These are things that aren't meant to happen, okay?
All right. Well, that doesn't sound like the reportage of a Apple fanboy. I'm really kind of shocked that you would come out with that in public.
I know. I've been looking through a Kickstarter campaign, actually, to see whether there's a new thing for a new type of phone there, but Apple's got that part sewn up. The watch was actually the first of the iPhone/Android watches was actually funded on Kickstarter.
Interesting you would come back to today's theme, Brian. You want to know why? Because I was about to do the same thing, but in a slightly different context.
Okay, so what was that?
Well, I thought maybe this would be your chance at a kickstart into the world of Android.
Oh, no way.
I don't think we're going to be seeing that one for a long time, folks.
All right.
However, that's going to wrap up this episode of Fully Threaded Radio. We really do appreciate you clicking in, everybody.
Till next time, okay?
For Brian Musker, this is Eric Udis. Get out there, sell some screws, and we'll talk to you next time.
Fully Threaded Radio is a production of Fasteners Clearinghouse. Music provided by Audionautics.